Hey guys, welcome to the Girl Take No podcast. I'm your host, Shani Sanders, and today we have special guest Leah Remillét. She's a true expert in helping small business owners conquer overwhelm and achieve scalable success, all while fulfilling home life, good health, and unwavering happiness. Now stay tuned for a conversation that is going to be truly inspiring and also empowering. Hope you enjoy it. Hey, Leah, welcome to this show. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I am doing excellent. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So before we jump into any questions, I really want to get the story behind the brand. So tell me the story behind the brand and how did you get into entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. Okay, so I started my first business in 2009. So I have been doing this for a while.
Yes.
And it actually was a completely different business back then. So what I started in 2009 was a photography business. I love to tease that I kind of think photography is like the gateway stay-at-home mom business. And so that's what I did. So I started with the photography business and that was what I did for the first couple of years. Then I started teaching photographers how I was structuring my business. I hit six figures really fast.
Wow.
I'm a total systems nerd. I love that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm not even that good. And and these other women who deserve to be like making great money, they're not. And if they just understood the business side, right? Like they were so much better with their cameras. I was so much better with the business.
Yes.
And so I started teaching them how to build a six-figure photography business. So then I did that for years and years and years. And, it gave me incredible opportunities to speak all over at all kinds of retreats and conferences, to host my own masterminds. And so that was what I did for years and years. But in 2015, I really felt this draw to pivot. And it was really scary because, I was really known in that industry. I had established myself and all those accolades and, all the recognition. I mean, like, I'm not going to lie, it felt really good.
Yeah.
But I wanted to shift because I really wanted to help all kinds of womenpreneurs. At this point, I'm like, okay, I've done it in a service-based business. I've done it in an online business. I've done it, where everything is local. I've done it where everything is virtual. And I built a course, and I built my first course back in 2012. And so courses were not a thing. Like that was not, there was nothing like there is today to make courses so easy. And so in 2015, I pivoted and really wanted to start helping all kinds of women build a business that worked with the rest of their life. So ultimately, I am obsessed with happy families. I believe in happy families.
Yes.
And I want to help women have the space to be able to cultivate their own personal happy family, while at the same time having their dream, their business. Because when these ideas are placed on our hearts, where we have a dream to put something out in the world, to do something, I don't believe that's on accident. I believe that we are meant to share our voices. We are meant to share our talents and our dreams without compromising our family, which is what matters more than anything. So I didn't want to have to choose. I didn't want I wanted an and. And when I finally figured that out, I'm a systems nerd. I am obsessed with automations and systems and outsourcing and all kinds of productivity strategies. And as I started placing them in my business, and I'm getting hours of time back, right? Like my hours are just dropping and dropping. I'm going from insane workaholic, available 24/7 to these hours where I'm working 3 days a week. I've got time for naps and lunch and going to the kids' school and getting a massage. And I'm like, okay, I have got to share how I am doing this because it changed my life.
Yes.
And, instead of me being controlled by my business, I was feeling like the confident business owner that I had dreamed of. And so that is what I do. I help women balance the busy.
Let me tell you something. That is such a good business to be in because we are busy, and a lot of times we don't we have so much on our shoulders as women, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're a wife, you're a mom, and you have family also that you have to take care of too. And being able to have those systems and processes in place that can really help you gain back your time. You know, that hashtag that was trending for a while called hashtag reclaiming my time. It is like a huge thing that I'm really behind now, because I'm all about implementing things that can have me work less. You know, not work less, but work smarter and not harder. That's really what it is.
Exactly. So I constantly say I am all about doing less but better.
Yes.
Right? Like getting rid of the busy work, getting rid of those things that we think we're supposed to do, but we don't need to be doing. Getting rid of the things that don't have an ROI. There's no return on investment. It's just busy work. Yes. And getting rid of the things that honestly someone else can do way better, or it's just not the best use of our time. Whether that's things from our personal life to like, I do not go to the grocery store ever. Like, why am I going to waste time? Like, why am I going to spend an hour or whatever of my week when between Instacart, Walmart Plus, and whatever other services are out there, I don't ever need to step into a Costco or a grocery store again. Right? So
that is so true.
Yes. So it's anything from those type of things to, major systems and automations that are in my business that allow things to just effortlessly work without me having to be right there.
That is so true. Oh my goodness. I do not utilize those delivery services as much as I need to. Like I would go to the Costco. I'm going to different stores. Like we have 6 kids. So I'm going to different stores. I'm loading up in the Costco. I'm loading up in like a Wegmans, and I'm loading up to a Giant. I gotta really implement that system. I really do.
Absolutely. And I think we all get a little bit stuck because we're like, oh, but it's more expensive. And we feel a little frivolous being
that's exactly what it is.
Yes. But I am telling you, I actually save money. And this is why. If I am the one at the store, I'm putting extra things in the cart. Okay? I do not stick to that list. And so I'm adding other things and getting kind of sidetracked. I actually save money because it's like, I just put the things that are directly from, the meals that we're going to making, what we're missing, and it's delivered. I mean, I especially joke, if I'm at Costco, there's no way I get out of there without a few $100s. If my husband is with me, you can add 200 more at least. If it is Instacart delivering the Costco or whatever service people find, I mean, it's like, it's only what I needed. I can't believe I got in and out and I didn't even have to go in and out under $100, and it's just sitting on my doorstep. I mean, it's so amazing when it's like, I have my podcast Balancing Busy, and I can't tell you how many times I got done recording, an episode or something, and I walk out of my office and it's like, the Costco delivery's on the doorstep. That's amazing. And I feel like Superwoman because I'm like, grocery got done while I was like getting the podcast episode done. It's just amazing. So yes, you have to do it. You have to do it. It's amazing.
I have to do it because you're right. What's so funny about the whole listing, and you're right. I told one of my girlfriends the other day, and I said, you know what? When you're so true, Leah, when I go to Costco without a list, I spend way more money. I'm picking up all these different things that I really didn't necessarily come in here for. But when I went, I said, one day I'm just going to go in, I'm going to go on my list, and I'm only going to stick to the list. And it's so true. When I stuck to my list, I spent less. I really spent less. And so it does make sense to do the online piece of it, because you're right. You're only going to buy what you need on your list. You're not going to do that shopping, that browsing, where it's that, I forgot what they're called when you're shopping, when you're in the line and it's all the stuff that they have in the line.
Oh yes.
That impulsive buying.
All those impulse items.
Yes.
Or like if I'm at Costco, oh man, like those, at the very front, they have all those kind of fun treats and everything.
Yes.
I get down that aisle and I'm like, one of those, one of those, one of those. Right. So yes, it is a good thing for me to just not go in there. Plus, when we're thinking about time, time is the most valuable commodity we have.
It's true.
And I can always make more money, but I cannot create more time. And so when I just look at, okay, where does my time go throughout the week? And I'm looking at a couple hours, to whatever it might be, right? But in this case, we're talking about grocery shopping. I'm like, oh no, I can find better ways to spend my time. And so I don't go.
That is so true. And I think the problem with me is that I equate doing online, Instacart and stuff like that to being more expensive versus being time saving.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people think of it that way too.
Yeah, I think that's what most do. And I get it, because I kind of thought that way at first too. I'm like, oh, I feel kind of bougie. I feel like I'd be kind of, right? And I have gotten over that. And I am like, oh, heck no, this is called smart time management. It's the same way where it's like, I might pay a little extra because I know that someone else can do something better and faster. And yes, there are like, I mean, since we're really getting on the grocery thing, like, yes, there are flaws. Okay. They never pick out produce as well as I'm going to. It's just the truth, right? Yeah. Like, but I'm just going to get over that and realize that my time is still more valuable than a slightly better banana or avocado, so right? And like, just, it is what it is. And allow it to be. And so it's amazing. So it's all kinds of things like that. Basically what I do is I look for needle movers. So in the beginning, I looked for that one easy button. Like, I'm like, come on, where is that thing that is going to make it so that everything just gets easier? And it doesn't exist. There is not one answer. But when I shifted and when I started looking for needle movers, I'm like, okay, this saves me 15 minutes and this saves me 30. And, not going to the grocery store, that saved me an hour and a half. And this thing that I just implemented into my business, that saved me 45 minutes. You stack enough of those together and now it is transformative. And so that's my thing. I'm like, I love needle movers and I stack them on top of each other and you just keep stacking and it is powerful. And I get that people are like, okay, but what does that look like? What does that mean? So if anybody wants to actually see some of my actual strategies that are in my business, because I'm a visual person, like once you show me, I'm like, oh, okay,
me too.
Now the wheels are spinning, right?
Me
so
too.
They can just go to gift.balancingbusy.com and they can download like a little pack to see, oh, that's what Leah's monthly checklist, quarterly checklist, weekly checklist, that's what, just some of these different things where they can see and understand what this actually looks like.
I'm definitely going to download it. I'm going to make sure I put it in the notes down for the show notes and also for here on YouTube as well, because that is so handy to have, be able to save that time. And like I said, I don't even look at that as time saving. But let me ask you this. Did you always want it to be an entrepreneur, or this is something just kind of naturally came about for you?
I actually always did. I didn't quite understand it when I was a kid. So I love to joke. I am the oldest and I love to boss people around. I have always
the oldest normally does.
I've always loved to tell people what to do. And I tease that I'm like, I literally got to like build my dream career of getting to tell people what to do, but I get to help them, right? Like I get to show them and help them how to have more time freedom. But yes, I kind of have really always known and loved entrepreneurship. When I was young, I had the opportunity to work for my dad in his company. And that was really my first, I had little businesses when I was a kid, but it wasn't quite the same. That was my first experience of really seeing a company. And he gave me a lot of freedom to implement and try different things. So as I'd be looking around within the company, I'd say, I think it could be really powerful if we tried this or this. And he'd say, yeah, go for it. Give it a try. Let's see. And that was everything because, as I'm trying these different things and we're creating a stronger experience for the customer, and now our referrals are going up, or our productivity is going up, our cost is going down, our profits are going up, like all these different things. It was so empowering. But then I got married and I had kids and I thought, oh, this is what I'm going to do now. Yeah. And the honest truth is after a few years, I had the itch. Like I was missing entrepreneurship. It is in my DNA. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to start something. And so that's when I started the photography business, which is, the stay-at-home mom's gateway business, I think. Yeah. And so I started that and I've loved it. So it's been what, 15 years almost of being in entrepreneurship. And, I've gone through all of it. I've been on the roller coaster for a really long time. I started when my youngest was 4 months old, because that is a really brilliant time to start a business, clearly. Yeah. And so
perfect timing. Perfect.
Right? And now he's in high school. My oldest has graduated. I mean, they were babies and now they've all like grown up and it's been amazing.
That's absolutely amazing. I know, you said something earlier I want to touch on when you said you started out with the photography business and you decided to pivot into something completely different. And I know it was scary, but what made you just go ahead and push past that fear? Because I think even as us as entrepreneurs, we think, like you said, your business your business evolves, right? It doesn't mean that it's this now, but it can evolve into something else. And you can't be afraid to evolve, right? And change and do things differently just for the betterment of your business. So what was the mindset in terms of how did you push past that fear of saying, you know what, I'm going to something completely different, but you know what, I'm gonna just do it anyway. And I'm not gonna absolutely jump in.
and isn't that the critical piece? So here's the first thing. Our businesses should be evolving. Like there's something wrong if it's not. So that's the first framework to work on, is recognizing like I have to be pushing myself and trying new things or I'm going to be left behind. Yeah. So, I started this first business and I'm going to be honest, I had no business thinking that I could start a photography business because I had never held any kind of camera. Outside of like a disposable. No, like I decided, I was like, I'm going to start a photography business. And then I was like, so I probably need to buy a camera. And then I had to like Google how to turn it on. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just went for it. I just had this belief that like, I'm going to figure it out. I am capable of figuring it out. And I will tell you, there were moments that were so hard. I can vividly remember trying to learn how to get my camera off of auto and into like manual. And I remember thinking, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm not capable, but I just kept trying and trying and trying. Until, it eventually got there. So that business. So one of the things that I really believe in is creating an experience-based business. I don't care what it is that you offer, what your service is. When we surprise and delight, when we really work on building an experience, it changes everything, because that's what gets a viral following. That's what gets, instead of getting, customers, you have raving fans. And so I built this business. I get it up to 6 figures really fast. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm not even that good. And there are these women who are genuinely talented and they, they love photography and they understand photography, but they don't understand the business side. And for me, the business side has always come so easy. It was the photography that was like a little sketch. And so I started teaching women how to build a 6-figure photography business. So I built and developed this course that I launched in 2012, which there were no courses back then. Like that did not exist. We did not have platforms like we do today. But I remember thinking like, I've got to show women how I'm doing this. And I was trying to figure out like, okay, what would that look like? Like, how do I do this? And so I built out this course and I put it out there and it was amazing. It went incredible. We had, I think over 1,000 women went through that program. I got to lead masterminds all over, even getting to go internationally with them. I mean, we had women in almost every country. I mean, it was phenomenal. And I loved it. I loved it. But there came this point where I started feeling the pivot. I started feeling the shift. I felt like there was this new thing on my heart. And it was about, in my early years, I didn't know how to put the right things in place to give myself balance. And so I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed all the time. And to the point where it led me to collapse and black out at a zoo, be put in an ambulance. My 5-year-old, my 4-year-old, my baby are being left at the zoo and their mom's being taken away by ambulance and they're terrified. And I was like, this has to change. And so as I became obsessed with systems and figuring out how I was going to change that, I had another moment where it was like, I cannot be the only woman struggling. I cannot be the only woman who is, secretly crying in the middle of the day because trying to manage both of these things is so overwhelming and so exhausting. And no matter how much I give and how hard I try, I still feel like I'm failing. So as I got those systems in place and I'm reclaiming my life and my joy and the kind of mom and wife that I knew I was meant to be, I had this shift of like, okay, I have to show women how we can do this. Like, this is not a me problem. This is a we problem. This is a collective, this is new.
Yes.
If we're talking about the time span of the world of us women being able to be both. But we have to learn how to do it, and we've got to learn together because, when I first went on this journey to figure out how I was going to get a hold of my life again, the stuff that was out there back then, it was like to corporate America. It was honestly to men. And I'm like, okay, I need a different strategy as a, full-time mom and sole provider and figure out how to make this work. And so, in 2015, I made this shift, and I am not going to lie for a second. I was freaking terrified. I was terrified. I mean, I was so known in the photography industry. I had a really good thing going. I mean, it was easy at that point, right? And I was so scared to go into this new realm where I wanted to help all kinds of entrepreneurial women, but they didn't know me. They didn't know who I was. And it was, I mean, I can remember a lot of tears, a lot of fear. And I think, it was a combination of two things. Number one, believing in what I was trying to do. Okay. So that's the first thing. You've got to believe in what you're trying to do. And that doesn't mean there's not moments of doubt. It doesn't mean we don't all have those seconds of like, feeling like, who am I to think I could, or feeling inadequacy or feeling inferior. That's still there. But I knew that I wanted to make a difference. Like, I knew that, like, in my core, I am here to change lives and to help women. And so then you shift that, like, who am I to think I can do this, to who am I to not share what I know, right? So there was that component. And then the other component is literally, just some good old fashioned suck it up buttercup and just jump.
Yes. I like this. Suck it up, buttercup. And jump.
Yeah.
God, Leah, let me ask you this. How do you tell the woman who is super overwhelmed, who is so used to, because I think a lot of times we get so used to working in that overwhelm that is so natural to us. And that if you come to tell us that, you can have balance, we'll look at you like, are you serious? Balance? This is balancing. I'm going crazy, and this is how I balance it. By going crazy. And I dropped the ball here and I dropped the ball there, but I'm going crazy and this is my thing. How do you convince that woman that, listen, there's a better way to do things?
So the way I really try to do that is by modeling, is by showing. I'm very transparent, like on my podcast and in my social media and on my platform, because I think that we as women, we need to shift from trying to impress people, which comes from, honestly, insecurity. It comes from self-doubt, to trying to inspire people. And we can inspire by modeling. So that's kind of the first part, right? But the second part is, I'm going to be totally honest. I was so sure that, like, everything would fall apart without me. I mean, I was like, oh no, you don't understand how important I am. Right? Like, the world collapses if I'm not there. I believed that. And I remember hearing other people kind of say things and thinking like, well, you don't understand my situation. Because I was a full-time stay-at-home mom with babies. I mean, they weren't even, all in school yet. And my husband was in graduate school. I was our sole provider. Like, without me, the mortgage doesn't get paid. There is no food. So I felt like, okay, that's great for you, but you have help. You have support. You have this. Yeah. And I'm sad to admit that the honest truth is, it took me being in a hospital where I could not do anything for me to go, oh my gosh, it turns out the world keeps spinning. Maybe I'm not as important as I thought I was. So I would like to really encourage women to not get to that point. Like, you're either going to prioritize your health in your home, or it's going to force you to. And that could be in the form of, you're all of a sudden, you keep getting sick, you keep having these things popping up, and it's your body trying to say, would you stop? Like, we can't keep at this level. Or you're seeing your marriage suffer. You're seeing your relationship with your kids suffer. You've lost all your friends. I don't want any woman to get to that point. And so I'm hoping that just the more I can share, the more I can talk, the more I can try to convince women that like, there is a better way. I get why you doubt it. I doubted it too, but I promise you it's there and it's not as hard as you think it is. Like my other thought was, I don't have an extra second. When do you think I'm supposed to find time to implement all these things, right? Like that was my other big fear.
That's a big one,
and, I mean, and I get that. If you're already starved for time, you can't even catch a breath. Someone telling you, hey, carve out some time so that you can save time. You're like, that's funny. Okay, where is that supposed to happen? There are ways to instantly get a little time back. Literally things like stop going to the grocery store. Okay, you just saved 2 hours. Now, use those 2 hours to put in some systems to get you another 2 hours. Now you got 4. Now that you got those 4, let's find some other places. So it's about finding where we can cut a little bit of something so that we can start claiming more and being really intentional with our time. One of the things that's really hard is, you know, there's a story that is that being successful is supposed to be hard, right? Like, oh, you gotta grind, you gotta work, you gotta, it's gotta be painful, you gotta sacrifice and suffer. And when you sacrifice and suffer enough, then you can be successful. That is a story, but it's one that a lot of us have deeply ingrained. We believe it. Well, then if we're believing that story, then when you do get some time back, you're going to just fill it with more stuff because you're still believing that it has to feel hard. So that was its own thing. I had to undo the belief that it had to be hard. And I had to shift this to my success can be whatever I want it to be. I am the CEO. I am the storyteller of my life. And my version of success, it feels spacious. It feels good. It is congruent with being present and available, whether it is for my sister, my BFF, a stranger, or my kids or my spouse, right? And so I really, really had to work on that story because, you know, one of the things that a lot of women do is they start getting some time back and they're like, I feel like I'm being lazy. I feel like I'm not working. I feel like I need to fill this. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's reframe that. No, you're getting what you wanted, but now we've got to be intentional about how we're going to use that time.
Yeah. You know what? I was just about to say that. I think you feel like, even me, when I do I try to do little time saving things in terms of I'm going to batch reels, right? Batch record. I don't have to be recording every day. But then I do that. And then I feel like, okay, I should be doing something else though. You know what I mean? So you're right. It's that mindset that comes in that feels like, okay, I did this where these few hours are now, you know, okay, that's done. But now I have all this free time and I feel like I'm supposed to be working every minute of this day because I'm supposed to be working towards this every day, all day, every second. And when I'm not, I feel like, okay, I'm not doing enough. There's people out here in that mindset, like you said, grinding and getting it and doing it. And I'm not doing enough. I need to be working every second of all my days up until the late night, early mornings.
No, that's exactly. I remember seeing a quote in my early days that was like, outwork them, out something them, out, right? Like it was something along those like do twice the amount they do. And I took that. Like I jumped on and I was like, okay, like that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm like, okay, we're talking to women, right? So ladies, that was a man. That was not a woman. Okay. That was some man who had a wife who was making dinners, making sure the laundry was done, and taking care of the freaking kids. That was not a woman, because you know what? If we do that as a woman, sure, you can, but you will sacrifice what matters most. And honestly, he shouldn't have sacrificed it either. In fact, I know who said it, and there's been a lot of divorces. There's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of isolation. That is a bad piece of advice. And we need to shift that to a very different story that is, what is my success? What do I want it to look like? Also, you know, some of those people giving that success, they're aiming for like billionaire, you know, like, and hey, if you want to be a billionaire, sister, do it. That is awesome. Like
go for it.
That's great. But sometimes we need to be honest and say, what is it I really want? You know what? I don't need $1 billion. I don't even need $100 million. Like I'm for big goals. Don't get me wrong. I am for big goals, but you know, I started realizing and looking around and going, that's not even what I want. Like, I'm not even trying to create that. What I want, what's going to bring me joy, it doesn't require that, and it doesn't need to require that.
So basically you were saying that balance is achievable because a lot of us don't believe it's achievable.
Right.
We feel like, a lot of people tell me, hey, you know what? I do the best I can. I drop the ball here and there because I don't have enough time. And so balance is truly achievable in your eyes, right?
Yes. So I remember hearing that same thing, and I still hear it. People are like, balance doesn't exist. And every time, I'm not going to lie, it hurts my soul because I remember hearing that when I was in that place of absolute overwhelm, and it was so defeating. It I was like, this is as good as it gets. There's no hope then. And it was terrifying to me. And so what I want to say to every woman is balance does exist, but it's different than what we've been taught. Balance is a feeling. Yes. It is a feeling. It is when you feel like all the areas of your life are good, that they are in alignment. So is that equal time? No, of course not. That's ridiculous, right? The amount of time that I'm going to spend on my business versus how much I'm going to spend on my workout, they are not the same. But when I'm doing all those things, when my life looks like weekly date night with my husband, it looks like we eat dinner as a family 6 nights a week, but I only cook 1 or 2 nights, just FYI. It looks like the house is clean and it feels great. And I use a combination of systems that I stack to accomplish that. And so that our house feels good and it's clean, but it's not me having to be in that all the time. It looks like working part-time hours. It looks like going to lunch with girlfriends. It looks like getting a massage. It looks like having so much time with my kids. Our oldest, she just went off to college in September, and she calls me probably 4 times a day. And I love it. It makes my heart so happy. And I'm available, right? I'm there. Yes. It looks like being intentional, knowing our core values so that we know what to say no to and we know what we want to say yes to. It looks like being truly present, and it looks like joy, harmony, getting to feel good. So balance exists, ladies. It does exist. The way that people try to tell you it doesn't exist, or they try to tell you it's equal, no, it is not. But it is a feeling, and it is achievable.
Yeah. And it's intentional. From what I'm hearing, it's intentional steps that you have to take to break the mindset of, I have to be grinding. I have to be busy. I have to be overwhelmed, because that's what entrepreneurship looks like. Yeah. And I like that you said that, because that is a story. And I realize as people, we always connect ourselves to a story, and we'll stick to that story too. And that's the story we've all been told, because I've been convinced of that story too, in terms of that's what entrepreneurship looks like. It's busy. It's hard. Okay. It's not going to be the easiest thing for you to do. You're going to really have to push through. You're going to have to, some people are going to get left behind. You know what I mean? Going to drop the ball here and there. It's going to be just, you got to hunker down. You got to do it. You get no sleep. That whole rest when you're dead thing, that type of mindset that a lot of people have. And it's like now shifting that, because we all know when you come to your mindset, it's hard to work on your mindset and to shift things when you're so used to things become habitual for you, Yeah. So how do you deal with that person, that woman that comes to you and her mindset is so stoned that way? What do you think is the first thing you tell her to start doing in order to kind of reshape her mindset around that having time is good, not versus bad?
The very first thing is start paying attention to how you talk about time. That's the very first thing. Our thoughts are powerful, and those thoughts, they generate from feelings, and they create more feelings, and they're going to create more of whatever we're saying. So if you are someone who says, oh my gosh, I'm always running behind. Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. Oh my gosh, I'm late again. I can never get ahead. I'm always so chaotic. I never know what's going on, right? All those stories are going to keep you right in the loop you're in, that it's always chaotic. It's always, just a little too yuck. So that would be honestly the very, very first thing is time is not going to be your friend if you don't treat it like a friend. It's the same thing with money. It's the same thing. How do you talk about money? How do you talk about time? How do you talk about I really encourage women, talk about money, talk about time, talk about the things that matter like they are something that matters. Talk with kindness, with gratitude, with appreciation. And just that shift is going to start making a huge, huge difference. So that's something very simple that every single one of us can do. Start paying attention to how you talk about and treat time and shift that.
Yeah, I think that that's important because I've been on this journey of manifestation affirmations and understanding just how important they are in our everyday life and how what they say the words we put out is versus is what we get back.
Yes.
If we say it's going to be hard, then actually it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
You know, so you're right. Changing our mindset around time and how we value it and what we think it looks like is work, but it's intentional daily work that we really have to do.
Yes. I started shifting to saying, I have enough time for everything that I want to do. Right. And before I felt like time was out to get me. Like me and time, we did not get along. And I remember just feeling angry, literally angry at the clock all the time. Like, how are you already there? How did that happen?
Yes.
Right? Like, I would just get so frustrated. And I remember having this moment. And I feel a little sheepish to admit that this was like mind blowing, but I remember having this moment where I'm like, you know, like Oprah and the president and, you know, whoever other insanely powerful people who get a whole lot done, they also have 24 hours. Like I felt like they had a secret stash of extra hours that like I didn't have. And when I just sort of sat there and sat with that and was like, we all are on a level playing field when it comes to time. Everyone has the exact same amount. Then that helped me to stop thinking that time was somehow robbing me. And then I started really shifting to saying and believing and thinking like, there is enough time. Time is so good to me. I have enough time for everything that matters to me. I am available. I have time to help people, to serve people, to love people, and to make my impact. And that helped. That actually really did help. I agree with you. Words are so powerful. And so, so really, looking at, first, start with how you just talk about time and then take that to, okay, what are the stories? What do I believe about time? Where is this coming from? Like what has happened to me within time that I have the stories that I have, and are they true? Like, can I shift them? So often when we just examine them, we realize like, well, I know someone who that doesn't happen to them at all. So clearly that does not have to be true in every scenario. And if it doesn't have to be true in every scenario, then it doesn't have to be true for me anymore. Yeah, that's true. You know, when it comes to, like you said, being a wife and a mom, how do you get your family like kind of on board in terms of like, hey, I'm doing this new thing with time and I'm going to have more time, or just making sure that they're not, I think it was a question that you had before, and I thought it was a really good question because it's like it does happen where your spouse or your kids begin to resent the thing that you're doing because the thing that you're doing is taking you away from them, where you're just investing so much time in that versus them. And they begin to resent that. And that's not something you want. You want to make sure that it's all together. You can see that mommy can do this and I can do this with you too. So how do you get the family on board? How do you create that open, first of all, that open communication in terms of like letting them know how you feel about it, but just so that they don't resent you for doing the business that you're doing? Absolutely. Okay. The very first thing is going to be boundaries, but it is not boundaries with your family. It is boundaries with your business. Yes. I can almost guarantee that any woman who is dealing with this, let me just, my hand is raised. Like I dealt with
Mine
this
is too.
I said, you are the most important thing to me. No one matters more than you. I did not show that because, we could be in the middle of something and all of a sudden a work thing comes and I have been pulled away. So that is the first thing. Ladies, we got to look and we got to see, what are our actions saying? Are our actions saying that the most important thing to me is actually my phone? It's actually my laptop. It's actually my work. Or are we showing that they are really what matters? So some of the first steps that I took is I was like, okay, when the kids get home from school, I will not do any work. I am done. I will not look at my phone. And it was hard. Like I had to, there's a lot of time management that comes in so that you're getting your stuff done. And I couldn't be trusted. I would sneak back in. So then I actually implemented where I shut my whole computer down when it was time for me to walk out of my office, so that if I tried to sneak in, I literally had like booby trapped myself, where I'd have to power up the whole computer to get back into work. So I started doing that. I would put my phone into a drawer. Like I literally, oh, the kids are home, I want to be fully present. I would put it in a drawer and it is out of sight. I am not going to look at it. I have alarms on my phone. I had one the entire time my kids were in elementary school that went off about 1 hour after they got home, because that was about the time where, you know, they're all in homework. I've given them snacks. I've asked how the day was. And it was an easy time to sneak and to, you know, to get sucked back in. So I literally had an alarm that went off every day, Monday through Friday, that was like, are you being the best version of yourself as a mom right now? Are you present and intentional? Are you really here? Right. So whatever that looks like, it wasn't that long, but you know, variations of those. So we got to start with ourselves. Bottom line. Next thing I'm going to suggest is, how do you talk about your business with your family? Are you giving them the good stuff too? Or are they your place to vent, where you're constantly complaining, you're constantly talking about how hard this client is, how stressed you are, how bad this is going? Well, they want to protect you. They love you. So if you're only ever sharing the negative, it's not surprising that they're starting to resent your business, because your business seems to be causing you pain. We've got to be willing to share the good with them, in addition to the, you know, the stuff that's hard. Like they are your place to vent, but that can't be all they ever hear. So that's the next thing. The third thing is going to be being willing to be really vulnerable and sit down and have a conversation that sounds something like, I want to tell you guys that I am really sorry. I haven't done this right. And you are what matters most, but I don't think I'm showing you that. And I want to work on fixing that. And I want you to help me. And I'm going to ask you to please be patient with me, but I'm giving you kiddos permission to call me out. I'm committing that I am not going to work, you know, let's say on the weekends at all. And if you catch me, you're allowed to call me out. And you know what? We're going to go pick out your favorite treat or something. I don't know. I mean, that, you know, like whatever. And the same conversation with your spouse, right? That's going to be one-on-one. And you're going to say like, hey, I love what I'm doing. I don't think I'm showing you that. And these are my dreams. These are my goals. This is what I want to create for us as a family. And I want to do it better though. I want you to know that you're what matters most. And I mean, we just got to have those very real conversations. And then it's about being 100% committed to doing what we say we're going to do.
Yes. That's the key.
Yeah.
Being committed to doing what you say you're going to do. I think that's really good steps that you gave, some strategies in terms of like putting your phone in the drawer, because we can get sucked in on our phones, especially when it comes to social media. You can go down that rabbit hole of just scrolling for hours, and you're right. And then you're not present, and the kids are looking at you and calling, mommy, what are you doing? What are you doing? And you're right. Being intentional about putting that phone away. Yeah. And not just down next to you, but actually somewhere else where you actually got to physically go up, get it, maybe turn it off and all that stuff. I think that's important. And another thing that you said that I think is really important and just kind of like blew my mind too, because I think I do this, is share the good, not just the bad. Because that will have them resent it, because it's this hard thing now that you're doing and it's not really going great and it's not going the way you thought it would. And you know, then you should we all mad at it. You're not the only one.
And they're like, why are you doing it? Just quit. Right? Like, and you're like, wait, no, you're supposed to support me. And they're like, wait, I'm very confused right now.
Yes.
You know, like, absolutely.
That is so important. Oh my God, that is so important. I really, really have to make sure I'm intentional about that. And I'm going to implement that today.
Yay. I'm so glad. See? And that's the thing. Like, and you're going to implement that. And then together, you and I are inspiring other women to recognize and implement this. Like we are better together. And when we share our stories and we're honest and vulnerable and like, hey guys, I got it wrong, but like I found a better way and I want to share it with you guys. I mean, that's how we as women are going to rise, because we need to speak. We need to share our voices. We need to put our messages out there. Like, we are needed in the world.
We are needed.
Right?
We are needed in the world.
Yes. And we are needed in our homes. Like, if we want to change the world, I really do believe, start with your family. Like, if enough of us are building and creating happy, great homes, we're going to change the world for better, because we are raising incredible little humans who are going to become big humans who are going to go out and make their impact and make their difference. So it's, it's about, again, it's about both, and it's going to be a balancing act. And that doesn't mean we got it perfect. It doesn't mean you're going to always get it right. You're not. And that's okay. Like that, we are human. This is a human experience, not a robotic experience. We are going to make mistakes, but we're just going to keep trying. We're just going to, okay, whoops, oh guys, I messed up again. Thanks for helping me. I'm going to try again. And we're just going to keep trying. And that's the same thing with your phone. I hope not a single woman is beating herself up over like right now over how much she's on her phone and the message she's been sending. Look, all those apps, they have invested millions, multi-millions, probably in the billions at this point, on getting us to stay on our phones. Okay. They have put the brightest, smartest minds to work at how do they get us to stay on our phones. So exactly the thing that we need to realize is like, okay, I know your game. I know what you're trying to do. I know your goal is to keep me here. So I'm going to put some safeguards in place so that my goals are the priority, because I'm not trying to serve and help you. I'm trying to serve and help me, my family, and my clients. And therefore I'm going to put safeguards to protect me from what you're trying to do, which is keep me on my phone.
Which is keep me on my phone. And they do a good job at it too.
Oh, they're so really good at it. They're so freaking good at it.
Oh my God, Leah, this has been such a good interview. Let me ask you, so looking ahead, what can we expect next from you?
Okay, so my favorite things right now is my podcast, Balancing Busy Podcast. I love doing that. We are constantly coming up with new trainings and courses to literally help women, right? Like we have one about, the no time home care, right? Like, okay, here's how I keep dinner on the table, my house looking clean, and not spending time doing it, right? And here's how I'm doing this in my business. Here's how I'm doing it with ChatGPT. So we have all kinds of resources, and everyone can find all of those things by going to balancingbusy.com. And if they want that special resource pack just for your listeners, they can go to gift.balancingbusy.com, and I'll just show them, some of my templates, some of my tools that I'm using so they can visually see and then we're all gonna claim back our power and give up frantic for feeling fulfilled, because that's what we deserve, and it's what our families deserve.
Yes, I love that you have that Balancing Busy podcast, because I'm all about sharing information, and I feel like, and I listened to a few of your episodes too, and I'm like, I feel like you give such good information. You know what I mean? It's a personal experience, and you do offer good experience on your podcast, and you give good information, and it's like stuff you can implement daily, right? And it's just inspiring also. So I advise everyone to make sure that they go download the podcast and make sure they listen to it, because we all can use more time in our day. No matter whether you're a busy mom, wife, whatever it may be, we all can learn from this, having more time in our lives.
Yeah. And just enjoying where our time is being spent. Yes. There is something powerful about being able to say, I hate doing that and I don't have to anymore. And, really focusing on the things that light us up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like that, because, I have a lot of women that listen to the podcast that work full time, but yet have their businesses on the side. And I think being able to understand how to balance those two,
because then that's its own thing. Definitely.
That's its own thing. Yes.
That's where your time management, and I'm going to be honest, I said time management because we all know that. I don't actually really believe in time management. You cannot manage time, because time is not changeable. No. But we can manage our mind and our energy. And when we manage those things and we put in the right systems and the right, strategies in place, then we have the energy, because that's one of the things that's so hard for those women. Like, they work full time, they also have their relationships, and they're trying to build their dream. Yes. And it's like, how do you have enough energy at the end of the day to build that dream? So that's its own thing. But yes, that's a major thing. So that's why I think the podcast and all your resources would be so helpful to my women that watch this show, that listen to this show, because there are those kind of women that are trying to, ditch that 9 to 5, but still want to know, how do I work both? How do I chase a dream without, like I said, feeling overwhelmed and exhausted? Because when from working this 8-hour day and I go home and I have to now be either wife, mommy, and deal with everything, and then plus try to work on my business too. So being able to have some time once they're
they're out of their workplace will be so much beneficial to them. But this has been a good show. I'm so glad we finally got a chance to do this.
Me too. I know. I'm so glad we aligned. It worked. Woohoo!
It worked. And there's so many things that I have already took a mental note of that I've already was jotting down. Like, I got to make sure I do this. I'm going to go download this. I'm going to do that because
Yay, good.
I need more time. I need more systems in place, things that I can do that I can take off my hand and not feel guilty about. So
yes.
I'm excited, and I thank you so much for being on the show. I'm actually one more question before we leave. I ask mostly all my guests this question.
Okay.
What was some of the best advice you received from another woman?
Okay, I can't think of any specific advice, but I can think of an experience, which was one of my first jobs I ever had was at this very fancy chocolate shop, and it was $52 a pound for chocolate. And this is in like 1997, 1999. Okay.
Yeah.
And these people would come in and they had no problem dropping, $100 for some chocolate. Right.
Know,
and
right?
I'm like, this is crazy. But I learned about the power of experience, right? I learned that like, you could go to the grocery store and spend $1 for a candy bar, or you could spend $5 or $6 for less than the cumulative weight of that candy bar for some fancy chocolate. But people were willing to because of an experience.
Yes.
And so I took that when I got to go work at my dad's company, and I was like, how can we create a more high-end experience, an experience that makes you want to talk about it, that makes you like feel good to share. And so I have taken that experience, and I had this wonderful manager. She was so kind to me. I remember she even let me borrow her adorable convertible Saab one day to drive to school. Like, I don't know what that was not wise to say.
No, right?
But like, she was so kind to me. She let me be creative. She let me do the window displays in this beautiful shop. And so I have held that always. Just remembering, number one, giving people the opportunity to show what they can do. And number two, never underestimate the power of wowing, like surprise and delight, building that experience for our clients and our customers. And I'm going to say, even your kids, even your family, I use that same strategy to like surprise and delight my kids with like, just little special whatevers. But I think there's so much power in that. So that is something I've really studied and learned, and I think has made a big impact for me.
I think that's awesome. Being able to create an experience, like no matter what type of business you have in your family as well, your personal life, your business, being able to create that experience and being able to offer that to people that's good advice. That's number one. As a historian, it's good advice to give. So I appreciate that. I thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us all this wisdom that you've given us today. And all this you did with so much wisdom, so much inspiration, so many tips and strategies that people can use. And I'm hoping they implement them right away and make sure they follow you and go down your podcast and just do everything that they can do in order to get more time, because that is something I think all of us want. All of us want more time in our day. So whatever the things we can do, whether small or big, that can help us get more time in our day, I think we all should definitely implement it. So
amen.
Yes. Amen. Oh my goodness. All right, guys, listen, I am Shani Sanders. This is the Girl Take No Podcast, and we will talk to you next time.